Yeah.
Man, what's up, everybody? I'm Lane. Got my boy Zane here. Getting ready for another episode of Spittin and Chattin. Zane, how you doing out there, man? I know it's pretty cold down there.
Hey, I'm bundled up. Shout out to everybody that's going through a little something.
Know you
Whether
got
you're
that long sleeve, brother.
yeah, if you in Texas or across these other states hitting the East Coast, I feel your pain, but hopefully everybody's doing good.
Man, how did you adjust coming from California to get used to that Texas weather? Like,
And I
I know
still
you've
ain't
been down there
adjusted.
for a minute, but how'd you adjust to that?
I still ain't adjusted. It's,
Ooh,
you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like bipolar weather. You gotta,
ooh.
figure out how to roll with it. But yeah, I ain't used to that yet. I still ain't used to like 100 degrees for like,
Mm,
30 to 60 days during the summer and
right.
snowpocalypse every now and then. You just kind of roll with it. But yeah, shoveling snow is not something I would get accustomed to. That's not something.
Man, I can imagine, brother. I can imagine. Well, man,
Yeah,
hopefully you stay safe, brother, and hopefully this
appreciate it.
weather will turn around this week for you guys down there.
Yeah, appreciate it. Shout out to
But
everybody going through it, trying to stay
yeah,
warm.
man. So, man, let's get into this, man. I know we've been waiting to talk about this, and it's a subject, I hear a lot of people talking about dealing with parenting, especially men,
Yeah.
difference between a father and a baby daddy, and I hate that word.
Yeah.
I hate that word. Whenever I hear it, I hear people, it's kind of like a little condescending kind of remark people make. But what do you think is the difference is, and how do you feel about that word personally?
I don't like it at all. It's to me, it's kind of it's almost like the N word. I mean, to me personally, like I wouldn't, want that label. That's kind of what I feel like it is. It has a negative connotation, to it. And so I would not accept it. I don't like it when I hear it.
Yeah.
It makes me cringe. It's like a second class citizen. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's about to
Right.
about to.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. No, whenever I hear it, people always make that comment, baby daddy, it's always at an African American male. You
Yep.
don't hear people, white men or maybe even Latino men, being labeled with baby daddy. And do people mean some sort of mean kind of condescending remark when they say that to you? Not necessarily, but they're referring to men who have a gang of children out there and they're not taking care of them. That's what
Yeah.
I hear. When I hear the word baby daddy, I think of men who don't take care of their kids.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's why it's it's kind of meant as a shot in a sense because you're either a father or you're not. I mean, you
Right.
might not be a good father, but at the end of the day, you're a father. I'm
Right.
a dad, I'm a father. I would never want to hear like, the term baby daddy because again, it just gives off this, brokenness, it gives off trauma,
Yeah.
it gives off like, just all kind of like negative things. And like you said, I only hear it in our community,
Yeah.
and if you do hear it periodically, with other communities that may use it, it's kind of like a joke.
Yeah.
Basically, they may use it as a joke, but you don't hear that like at large, different communities using that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's they even make it towards women, baby mama and stuff like that. And that's this kind of stuff that, in our community, we need to get rid of. It's some dirty laundry that exists in our community and with our
Yeah.
people that, it's no kind of social program or anything that's going to be able to stop it. It's people in our community that have to get rid of it.
Yeah. And I'll be the first to admit, like I come from a broken home, you
Right.
know what I mean? But
Right.
back then I never heard my mom say that's, nothing about no baby daddy or
Yeah.
any of that. And she would always refer, even though she might not have liked him at that time, she referred to him as my father.
Right. Right.
Which brings me to this question, Lane. How do you think that would impact kids that hear the mom calling their father baby daddy? Like, are they on the phone or something and they say, yeah, my baby's daddy coming over to give me some money, or my baby daddy's coming through to pick up, my baby, whatever. But how do
Yeah.
you think the kid would feel about that growing up?
Man, well, you know what? We create a lot of our own problems within our community, and a lot of it starts from parenting. And what we
Mm-hmm.
learn from our parents, and how we parent our kids, we learn from our parents. And a lot of us have evolved and changed and figured out, hey, there is a correct way to mentor your kids. There's a correct way to discipline your kids. So
Yeah.
when I hear kids, hearing that kind of term from their parents, it just further just keeps that problem within our community going. Nobody has the courage enough to say, no, that is your father, or nope, that is your mother. But the kid's going to may treat that other parent like baby daddy or baby mama. It's really,
Yeah.
it doesn't help that child respect that parent.
Yeah.
A lot of us come from broken homes, and some people may not know what a broken home is. That doesn't mean that, hey, you're set to be a statistic, you're going to jail, you're not going
Right.
to
Right.
make it.
Right.
A lot of people, you figure out how to make it work. Rather,
Yeah.
you're in the house with your family. If you're not, then by statistics, I think that's considered a broken home. But a lot of people do what they got to do and stay involved in their child's lives. But that child just going to keep that going. When they have kids, guess what they'll call their children's parents, baby daddy, baby mama. They're just going to
Yep.
keep that cycle going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that, I mean, I wish I wish it was really a cycle we could break. We kind of, and this is not just with this term, but other terms, we kind of accept labels and stuff, like that.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's us, and typically it's not us that gives us these labels, but for whatever reason, we turn them into tiers. We turn them into like endearment, terms of
Yeah.
endearment. So like we'll take a negative term like the N word, and then that's what we call our brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just the reality of it, but it doesn't. When other people outside of your culture look at that, you gotta like kind of. They have a different view of it. You
Right.
know what I mean? We don't want to keep. I know we've said this before, but we don't want to keep being the butt of the jokes,
Yeah.
like for stuff, for labels and stuff. We gotta like figure out how to break these chains and negative terms that have been put on us, and like promote, like I said, every father is not a good father. That's the reality. Some of them earn these negative titles. I get it. But at the same time, we should be addressing each other as we truly are, whether that's, the father or whether that's the mother. I would say for the sake of the child because it's already an issue, right? If
Mhm.
that parent is not even there, or they're periodically there, or whatever the case may be, it's already kind of an internal issue that has to be dealt with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we could still just kind of help respect each other enough, you know what I mean? It kind of helps with, like, I guess, minimizing some of the impact maybe we'll have with our
Yeah.
issues growing up.
Yeah. And it goes to what we talked about before, respect for men in our community, respect for grown men, fathers. Other communities, you don't see their women tearing down their men.
Yeah.
There's issues, there's problems with everybody, but you're not going to know about it.
Right.
They don't call their, kids, parents, baby daddies and stuff like that. And it works the same way for women too. Our community, the language we use towards women and everything like that, it's the same thing. It's just inflicted wounds that we have that we're not addressing in our community. But like you said, it's big difference between you're either a good father or you're not. Man, but
Yeah.
when you're not a good father, what does that look like? Like, how can a man look in the mirror and just really say, man, I'm doing my job, I'm doing my best, maybe I could do better, or I ain't doing a damn thing? Like,
Yeah.
what does a bad father look like?
Yeah, I think to me, a bad father is someone that's just not present.
Mhm.
You have a seed out there, you have a child out there, and you're not making any efforts to be a part of their life. Even if there's issues with, the mom,
Right.
we get that. But, kind of like what we expressed in the past is like the child should know that father is always fighting
Yeah.
to be a part of their life, that they're doing whatever they can. Like the courts may be restricting them, or the mom may be playing games.
Yeah.
But I think the child needs to know, like, some kind of way, like, my father is doing at least what he can and they may not understand it, while they're young. They may be frustrated, like why is he not there? But I think if the father is communicating, if there's barriers or things that he can't do, expressing that to the child, like, I want to be there, but this is stopping me from spending time, whatever that case may be. But
Right.
whatever time you are allotted, whatever time you can pour into your child, do it. Because when they grow up, that becomes more of an issue. That's gonna keep a distance. And in some cases, bitterness and hatred, because the
Yeah.
kid never really got any answers growing up, and they may have been just fed one side of the story.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to make sure you get your side out, whatever that may mean.
Yeah. And man, kids do not forget. Once they're of
Mm-mm.
able mind and they kind of see, other kids with their dads, coming to the practice, coming to the games, and they're like, hey, man, where my dad at? And man, kids
Yep.
grow up and some of them don't forget that. They learn to accept it and understand it, but they don't forget. And like you said, they grow up with resentment and bitterness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of guys talking, especially when the relationship is severed, rather they were married or boyfriend and girlfriend or maybe living together somehow. Now the
Mhm.
relationship is over. You're on your own. She's on her own. But in the middle, you guys have a child.
Yeah.
And I hear brothers talking and complaining about this and that because now comes the word child support.
Mm.
I hear that, from both sides. I hear people talking about it. And one way, kids don't necessarily have anything to do with that. They just want to spend time with their mom and spend time with their dad, especially male children. We've talked about before how the statistics of them who have fathers versus the statistics of them who don't. But fathers play an important role, especially in male children. A child support is something that is like a ugly term in our community because somehow men see that as a way to keep them away from their child. But like you said, if you're fighting for your child,
Mhm.
you're going to have a financial obligation to that child, rather that's a little bit or rather that's a lot. But the kid really doesn't see that child support. The mom may be doing whatever with it, doing the right thing, doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
The only child support kids see is time. And that's how they spell love is TIME, how much
Yeah.
time you spend with kids. But have you heard of, guys talking about the child support system, how that plays into their favor or against them?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a big topic,
Yeah.
like in our community. Child support is, it could be devastating, you know what I mean, depending on how it's set up. Do fathers need to have a financial obligation? 100%.
Yeah.
Like that's your child. You should make sure that just as if they were living with you, you're taking care of them. Now, what I don't, like, and I guess is, how the courts can dictate, how much, and, they have their own calculations. I get that that's just part of it. You can't really get around it, but I think it's an unfortunate situation because now you're kind of at the mercy of what they decide.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the thing. Like, yes, there should be obligations. Like the father should absolutely be taking care of their child financially. But like you said, time is like the biggest thing the child needs. So how about working on making sure they're getting the adequate time they need with their child?
Yeah.
And, at the same time, of course, that comes with them spending, that comes with them providing,
Yeah.
But a lot of times it could be lopsided where you're not really able to see the child the way that you want to, and you have this big lump sum you got to pay, so to speak. So it's like your child becomes a bill, you know what I'm saying? And you're not really even getting time. So I could see how, that could be infuriating. I haven't experienced that personally, but I know a lot of people that have, you know what I mean? And I was a child of child support growing up. But I could see how, when a man is trying, see his child, but the court is restricting the amount of time, and it's not equal. You know what I'm saying? You just see a big chunk going out, but you're not even getting the time that you would like with your child.
Yeah.
So,
man, a lot of what you said, there's a lot of content with what you said, just talking about time. And I hear a lot of brothers talking about their child support bill because of whatever reason they can't get the adequate time that they need with their child. Maybe the child lives in another state, another city,
Yeah.
another country,
Yeah.
and mom had to move for whatever reason to better her life and to better that child's life. But, and we've talked about this before. This is why it's important to wait before you lay down with this particular person because, hey, how's this going to work out? In
Yep.
the end, that's sometimes a thought you got to think about. Is this person going to be a good parent? Is this person going to be a thorn in my side for me wanting to spend time with my child? But
Yeah.
we can't say this enough about, the courts might put barriers between you, but you have to fight for your child. Might that mean you fight the courts? And there should be no reason why a father should get just as much time with that child as the mother.
Yeah.
Society has grown and gained knowledge to find out how important fathers are, especially with minority children, how important fathers are to their children. So you have to fight for your kids. You might have to go the extra mile. If you're comfortable with paying that big lump sum and maybe getting your kids every other weekend or every weekend, then that's fine. If you can be a positive parent and that's all the time you got, then hey, that's what it is. But when you want to get more time with that child, that entails you having more responsibilities. Like, you got to wake up and cook the meals. You got to make sure that their clothes are ironed, ready for school. The homework is done. They didn't miss anything. Because now you're being the full-time parent. It's not the mom. It's your responsibility. Those aren't mom responsibilities. They're parent responsibilities. And a lot of guys think, I'll let the mom do that. No, you should be doing that too. Taking them to the doctor to get their shots or their checkups or whatever, preparing the meals, like we said, laundry. A lot of guys don't know the kind of stuff that it takes to raise a child.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a mindset shift too. Because I think this is just based on a few conversations I've had or seen, but I think once they're kind of in the system and, there's this feeling of like, man, I'm not going through all that. You know what I mean? I'm not going, and like you said, it should be a fight for equal as possible. So if you feel like it's not equal, you need to be going back to court. But from what I hear, most, or I should just say a lot of men feel like they just don't want to go through that, because it could be so draining. And I'm sure it is, right? Nobody wants to keep going back and forth through the court process because it takes forever to get stuff done. We know that. But I think that's one of the things that if you want something, you have to take those steps. You got to file for whatever you need through the court system. Because if it's not done properly, then it's going to be against you in a sense. Things are going to work against you because unfortunately the court system, they may typically choose a side of who they feel is like the better fit parent.
Right.
Now that could be the mom in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases, it's the father, but there are many cases that we've heard of where it's just the mom is chosen and the father is kind of subject to whatever those terms are. And I think there's a lot of discouragement that happens because they just feel defeated. You know what I'm saying? What's your thoughts on that? Like when they feel defeated and it's like, man, the system's against me. We have this, we got that situation too. The system feels like it's against us. Just another wall I got to try to climb. Like what would be your thoughts or advice on that?
Man, it's to understand when you understand that you're right. The system is against you. The system is going to put your kids and family over there and you over here. And in the middle is this money that you got to send over there. But it's not yourself. That money, it helps with the raising of the child, but that child needs your presence there. That doesn't mean you're living in the house, but that child needs your involvement. This is what it is. And you got to understand, people can call it a game or whatever, but is there a reason why you can't have just as much parental responsibilities as the mom? Is your life maybe not stabilized? You can't keep a job. You can't, you don't have your own place. Just have the bare minimums to start. But, although you may be paying less child support because you have more time. So if a guy pays a particular amount, let's say he's paying like $1,000 a month, court gives him more time, lowers that child support. Guess what? Yeah, you're not paying that much child support, But now you got the kid in your house at certain nights of the week. You
Yep.
still got to provide meals, the same meals that the mom was providing. Now you got to provide. You got to make sure you have utilities on, and kid has to do their homework and their activities. It's
Yep.
more than just child support. It's a lot of time and effort. And some guys, have kids, but in them themselves they still behave like kids. They're not mature enough and ready to take on the responsibilities of a child. And there's some women like that too, but the court sometimes will see who is the better parent, not necessarily financially, but sometimes, somebody who's more mature.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know this is hard, but like anything worth, fighting for, like your kids are going to be worth more than anything else you would fight for, right? So I know that we get lawyers for different things. Like it may come to that. Lawyers cost. We know they cost a grip. So, but at the end of the day, like if you feel like you're not getting the representation maybe you need, you might have to hire an attorney. They know how to talk the lingo. They know how to get things moved into your favor. And a lot of times the judges and courts, they see that, oh, this person is serious, like they really want some time. Let's kind of look at things differently. And that's like you said, it's a lot of us view it as a game, and that's part of the game. You have to play to win.
Yeah.
And, if you just kind of at the bottom, like just like going through the motions and not taking like maybe the next step, that might cost you. It's going to cost you, but I mean, it's so worth it. You know what I'm saying? You only, this is your child, and they need to know that you've done everything you can.
Yeah.
Back to that point.
And man, when you have kids, that's what it is. It's going to cost. That's why some people wait to have kids until they're stable. Yeah. And it's what it is. It's going to cost. Rather you're paying, for whatever to raise that child, or maybe you're paying to fight for your child. But it's a cost you're going to have to make. And like you said, in the end is that child. And man, it's going to, you fighting for that child in the long run is going to pay off. It may not pay off somehow financially, but it'll pay off maybe with the stability of your child, not being a statistic. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we talk about men and kids, especially our community, the kids who are and the kids who aren't.
Yeah.
I myself was in that system with the child support thing. And so if I could give anybody advice, a lot of people advice, and I never looked at things financially. If you really think about what's best for the child, put away your own personal problems, your own personal beliefs, your own personal financial stuff. Yeah, you have a child. That child should come first. Not your Starbucks habit, or not your chain you want to buy, or the Jordans you want to buy, or some other girl you want to date. That child who you have a responsibility with, even if she's with the mom and the mom is dating somebody else, you still have a responsibility to that child that should come first. And so the way I looked at it was like, what's in the best interest of my child or children? And if you think about it with that mindset, you have a lot less frustration with like, where's the money going? Because I hear guys talking that, they say, well, I give her the money. I don't see new clothes on the kids, but I see her hair and her nails done. Well, I don't know if you want to track and do all that kind of stuff, but why not just take your kid shopping and go buy them clothes yourself? You still got to pay child support. You still got to hand that cash over, but why not, instead of you buying yourself, weekly, daily Starbucks or alcohol, whatever you do when you go out or gambling, take your kids school shopping.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. I guess my older self talking to my younger self, and like just some of the younger men out there, I would just keep it like straightforward, put that thing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you ain't ready for just the drop of a possibility, if you know what I mean. Let me say it again. If you ain't ready for the possibility of a drop of the possibility of that child being born, you just need to put it up. I mean, you playing Russian roulette. You know what I'm saying? And so we don't want to look at kids like that, because it's none of this is like their fault. You know what I mean? None of this is their issue. They didn't ask to be brought into this world, right? So, but it's the possibility, and it's the function of why we even do that, ultimately, right? To procreate. So if if you plan on doing that, just know that it's a great chance that you're going to have a kid. Like, that's the whole purpose of it. Now, again, this is me older, right? I was young and dumb back in the day, so I get it. But what I'm saying is, if I'm trying to also give out something now that I understand more clearly, it would just be like you just mentioned, just wait. Because the odds of it happening, right? You might get away a few times, but it's coming. Ooh, no pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah. And man, like you said, you can play Russian roulette, but every once, you might catch that one barrel that's not empty, it's loaded. And man, it happened to me at a young age. And man, when I say I had to grow up and I had to learn quick, like that, I had to really just kind of think about, my daily life, making sure my son is straight before I go to work or before I go to school or practice. But I had to grow up quick. But like you said, my older self thinking about my younger self, like, whoo, man, and that's why we tell the younger generation, hey, if you can wait and meet that person when you're married and stable and financially comfortable to have a child and take care of that child, because it takes a lot. There's like we were talking about how much healthcare costs right now, and how many parents or families do you know that their kids don't have medical or dental? That stuff is important. You thinking about school clothes and buying them new clothes and put a little earring on your kid and they ain't got health insurance.
Right.
What happens if they get sick? Do you have a good enough job where you can provide benefits for that child? Like, those are things you don't think about when you're in your early 20s or in your teenage years, but it takes a lot. And we're talking both parts, not just, us as men, women too, but that stuff, the benefits and stuff like that, making sure they perform well in school. Sometimes you got to sit your butt down and do homework with that child. You want to watch Monday Night Football? Nah.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and that fact right there happens all the time. You know what I mean? You may have plans that you thought you was going to do something, but now you find out your daughter or your son has an event or they need help like right away because they got a test tomorrow and they're nervous, or they get sick. All of a sudden, you got to take them. You got to make sure you're cared for. So it's not a game. That part is really not a game. Like, understanding that there are, I don't want to use the word consequences, but I mean, I guess that's the reality of it. There are consequences to our actions, and we just don't want to have like regrets. You know what I'm saying? As much as possible. No child should ever be a regret. But I will say this: there are a lot of children that probably feel like they are a regret, depending on how the parents are. You know what I mean? And if they're making them feel like, dang, my life would have been so much better if I'd have had, they rambling off stuff around the house, or, bickering and arguing because they feel like, I should be here, I should be there in my life. A lot of that the kid may internalize as like they're the problem. And so, those are things we really, really got to think about, especially like the younger generation that, is wilding out, not really giving consideration. All you're thinking about is gear and drip and Uber Eats and,
It's so much more to life than that stuff. And I understand that is the shiny stuff that's attractive to younger people. And sometimes people our age, and I get it. You want to look nice, feel nice, but there's a thing called living within your means. And when you have a child, you got to consider their needs first. You want to buy yourself some Jordans, but hey, school's coming up. Maybe you got to buy your kids school supplies and stuff like that. And putting them in what they need. I used to, when we go to school, we used to see kids with, shoes that were not like up to date with like the fashion standards, and those kids that kind of would get made fun of and teased. I wasn't one of those kids who did that, but I remember seeing that. But hey, those parents were doing what they had to do financially. At least they were there and present. That's more valuable than the kid who's got all that nice stuff, but maybe dad or mom are not present.
Yeah.
But, I also think, man, there's a thing when you do the right thing, when you're providing for your kids, you're doing your best. There's a thing called karma. And I think that when you know you're doing the right thing for your children, for your offspring, those kids who you had. Yeah, you didn't plan to do it, but they're here. And you're kind of shortchanging them on life. You're so worried about what the mom's doing. So you're paying the minimal child support. But you got it nice, at your house. And you kind of make yourself like, yeah, just like them NBA players. Man, you ain't making that. And trust me, they can pay that child support and pay it and be done with it and no problem. You can't. So their problems are different from yours. But man, I think when you're not doing the right thing, I think your life that karma is going to be on your life. Like you won't be able to succeed and attain new things in life because you're not doing what's right for your child.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, and for the youngins that don't know what karma means, it just means what goes around comes right back around.
Man.
So really taking that into consideration, like whatever decision I'm about to make, there's going to be a result of that. You might not like the result in the moment that you get. You might be like, man, I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't ready for this. Well, now your whole life then changed.
Yeah.
Your whole life then changed. And I always say this just because, as a child, I remember that, you know what I mean? Being a part of a broken family, I always say this, that, you just don't want to have regrets, and you don't want to feel like, and you don't want your child to feel like they're, burdened. So to alleviate that, you have to think about what you're doing. So I know we can't beat that enough, as far as that particular topic, but it's really, really important moving forward, as fathers and just young men that are trying to even get their lives going. Like you could have a plan for your life or things that you think you want to do, but and it's not that you can't achieve it, but it just makes things so much more challenging.
Yeah.
When you are not mentally prepared, financially prepared just in general for an extra person in your life that you're going to be responsible for.
Man.
Not just say hi and bye and drop off. No, like somebody you are responsible for their life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah, and that's important, man. You're responsible for that child's life, sometimes not just the financial means, just the physical means, your presence.
Yep.
I was on YouTube one day and two things I was watching. I was watching these, cause you have a daughter and I have daughters now too. And it's different. I had sons growing up with them. So they're different. Just trust me on that.
Yeah.
Now that there's little girls, your thinking is different. And I was watching this thing on YouTube, and your constant thought about when you have little girls is not being there when they need you for their protection, physical protection.
Yeah.
And these like former sex predators or offenders, child rapists were being interviewed and talking about what kind of kids they targeted. And most of them targeted kids where the father was not present.
Yeah.
If they saw dad, that dad's a threat. So they didn't go for those kids. They went to the kids who had single moms or grandma was raising them or auntie was helping out. Your presence alone will just kind of make other people, I don't want to go near that guy.
Yep.
I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Den of Thieves, when the prom date came to pick up 50 Cent's daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care what kind of bad guy he was in the movie, man. He was 10 toes there for his daughter, man. And that, you want your daughter home by 11 o'clock, 11:30.
Yeah.
She better be here.
He got the point.
Yeah, he got the point.
Yep.
Right. Especially when his boys were in the garage. Like, I thought I was going to have me an all-nighter with this one, but no, it's not going to happen. Because we know how boys are. You know what they're thinking. We were thinking. I understand that, but not with this one, homie. You're not doing that.
Yeah. And that's why it's kind of odd as a man as you age and things like that. It's like your mindset should be growing to you understand how you thought back in the days and some of the silly stuff we did. Of course you don't want it. You don't want nobody doing that to your daughter. So it's like, why would you not help set that standard? Like, man, I've already made these mistakes. I've already done some of that stupid stuff. I've already hurt, you know, a few girls, you know, growing
Yeah.
up. Like, I don't want to see you go through that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that if from a man to man perspective, like if you're younger, you're gonna grow up and you're gonna realize like you made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, some mistakes are, you know, are cool, you know, we all make them, right? But some mistakes, like, they last your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that it's like, take heed to some of the things that older gentlemen are trying to, you know, share with you.
Yeah.
Don't just brush off everything because you gonna be us in a few years. It may feel like 10, 15 years away, 20 years, whatever it may be for you, but you gonna be us.
Yeah.
You know, just like we are now our fathers and our
Yeah.
grandfathers, like now we see it from their lens. And it's like, nah, I don't want nobody around my daughter, like, period. But, you know, I know that she gonna grow up to be a woman and I'm gonna have to deal with certain things. But nah, you ain't just coming around my house like that.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll think twice. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I'm gonna go holler at one of them Wilson or Wells daughters.
You ain't hollering
Oh,
nobody.
them guys got pistols, man.
Right. Right. And I think to your point, like you said, like just predators in general, you know what I'm saying? Like predators are like an extreme sickness, you
Yeah.
know, where you're targeting people and stuff like that. But I guess just taking that same concept of like the vulnerable, like men know who they can target based on vulnerability. I'm saying this as an older man now, thinking about my younger self. You kind of have an idea of the family structure, or like, you know, can I get away with something? Are the parents home? Are they not? You know, and so what you were saying about predators that look for those that don't have that male influence, that don't have that father influence, that's not something always the woman can control, obviously, if they're not in a relationship with that father anymore. And that's kind of just the sadness that comes from like being a part of a broken home.
Yeah.
But those are things you need to be aware of. Like you are more vulnerable. You know what I mean? Your child is more vulnerable when the father is not in the
Yeah.
house. You know, that's just a reality. It's not like you're less of a person, you're not strong, you're not a strong woman. It has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with creepos and weirdos and the mindset of a man when it's way out there.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Man, this is a
So,
good topic today, brother.
yeah, for sure.
And I love chopping it up with you, man. We
Yeah,
need
man.
everybody's support. Please like, subscribe, leave your comments. We got some more content coming. I know we've been on hiatus for a while, but we back.
Yep.
And we
Yep.
look forward to doing this again next week.
Absolutely. Y'all stay safe, stay bundled up, depending on where you at. But thanks again for your support. Spittin' and Chat
Next week.
next week.